All in Sports Network. We love sports.
Welcome to a special edition of All in Horns, an early episode release due to a special occasion as the softball team is ready to go take on the Florida Gators in their first College World Series matchup. It is a double elimination point up to this point in time, but no more series. And so they get going at 11 o'clock this afternoon. So Jake and I are releasing this episode early so we can talk about the game a little bit, talk about kind of what the bracket and what the tournament looks like for the Longhorns, what the implications will be if they win or lose this game, and kind of just how it's set up so everybody kind of has an understanding of it. But yeah, Texas taking on Florida, and this is going to be a very important. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and mark it, Jake. This is a must-win game for the Longhorns.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it last week, how important that first game is in these, baseball and softball College World Series. And, the percentage of teams that go on to win a national championship or even play for a national championship that lose that first game, it's very, very rare. And so losing that first game is pretty close to dooming yourself as far as making a very deep run goes. But you feel especially for this Texas team. They need to win this first game. They haven't really been playing all that great the last couple of months. The regional is the only time where it feels like they really kind of had all cylinders firing, but they had a lot of issues in that Clemson series. Very lucky to even be here, quite frankly. And they've kind of struggled against some of these top teams. Obviously, they did take a series against Florida. However, that was at the start of SEC play. That was the first series in SEC play, and that's when softball was kind of playing their best. Was that first half of the SEC schedule. Will started to fall off really from that Tennessee series on, and they just haven't felt in a rhythm since then outside of that regional. But when you're hosting a regional, you're that sixth seed. You should dominate like that. It was great to see him dominate like that, but a lot of those good feelings kind of went away with the struggle that was that Clemson series, especially when you consider the fielding issues Texas had in that series, and it felt like Clemson's fielding was either just as good or better, and that was an area we had pointed out as being a key area where Texas had a huge advantage, and it just feels like every time you feel like they have an advantage going into a series, that part of the ball falls apart.
Yeah.
Just like against, going into OU is like if the bats get going, maybe they'll be good. The bats were better and the pitching and the defense wasn't there.
Right.
So it's just been kind of over the last couple months, despite their really good record, still to say that still made it to the Women's College World Series, despite all those awesome things. It's just felt like when they play these top teams, if it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah, to kind of reiterate what Jake is talking about, I'm going to kind of give a quick synopsis of how the season went for both Texas and for Florida to how they got to this point. Texas started SEC play in dominant fashion, winning that series over Florida, winning on the road 7-2 in game one, won game two 13-7, and then lost game three 1-3. But then Texas blew through regionals, and they did have a tough super regional against Clemson, as you were talking about, but 1-2-1, dropped game one in that series to get them to this point, but did lose in embarrassing fashion to Texas A&M in the SEC tournament, and then lost two of their last four SEC series of the regular season, getting swept by OU, not in the season finale, but on the second to last series of the regular season, and then losing to Tennessee. So you lose to Tennessee 2-1, you go and beat LSU 2-1, and then you turn around and get swept by Oklahoma, and then you sweep Kentucky to finish out your SEC season. So a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but finished third in the SEC. Florida finished fifth in the SEC, obviously starting that SEC season with that losing series to Texas. But Florida ended their regular season winning their series against number 19 Ole Miss, against number 17 Alabama, lost their series 2-1 to number 10 LSU, but then beat OU 2-1 in their series finale, and then did go one and done in the SEC tournament. But they did dominate their region, much like Texas dominated their regional as they got there. So dropped game 2 to Georgia in the super regional, but controlled games 1, and then was up 5 runs in the top of the 7th of the game 3, where Georgia ended up scoring 2 more runs. But Florida was able to close that one out and win that series in 3 games. So that's how both teams kind of got here. It's a little bit for me, Jake, kind of going over that season review just briefly, is that Texas started off really hot, went through the middle of their season, really kind of unscathed. Towards the back end of their season, Final Four series, going into SEC tournament play, even going into super regionals, and now in the College World Series, not necessarily playing their best ball. Florida, on the other hand, started out a little slower, kind of got on track a little bit more so in the middle to the end of their season, finished off with a bang, beating Oklahoma in their season series finale, and then had a bit of a little lapse in judgment in the SEC tournament. But they've been all cylinders have been firing for Florida over the last, I don't know, probably about 2 months now. It feels like they've been probably playing the top of their game.
Yeah, and that's why it's it's hard to feel overly confident going into this game, quite honestly. Just because you may be able to sit there and go, well, Texas beat Florida in the regular season. When they beat them 2-1, when Texas was kind of playing their best, Florida not so much.
Right.
And then it's like these two teams have just been on since that, and ironically, them being that first series of SEC play, it's just like they've kind of just like, here's Texas, here's Florida, and just kind of slowly switching paths.
Yep.
And now we find ourselves playing each other again. But in the World Series, in the first game of the College World Series, and is this one where Florida takes this one, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Florida does have to travel, a lot longer of a way than Texas does. A lot of people talk about the big advantage OU has with it being in Oklahoma City. And I think having to travel a whopping 28 miles to get to the Women's College World Series. But I think they just stay in their dorms as well. Or,
I was about to say,
whatever.
honestly, Jake, they've kind of earned that right, have they not? Just to have home
And
field advantage.
Oklahoma City put up the money for this really nice stadium that's out there. When softball, has really exploded over the last few years, when softball wasn't this big sport, or as big of a sport as it is now, Oklahoma City was the one who was willing to fork up the cash to do that. So I don't really have a problem with it. No matter where you have it, you're going to have an advantage for a team if they make it. I don't think it matters if the Women's College World Series was played in Oklahoma City, if it was played in Washington, if it was played in Timbuktu. I think Oklahoma would have won the last 4 Women's College World Series very handedly, just like they did, because they were the most dominant teams we've ever seen in any sport, just about.
Yeah, you could play it on the moon, and Oklahoma's probably going to win that World Series.
Yeah, they would hit even more homers because of gravity. And so it's just, I think a couple of their home run shots from other seasons might be on the moon.
Might have landed there. Yeah.
But I could stop talking good about OU now. It makes me want to vomit. But it's just it's an interesting spot to be in, just, with it being the first game of the Women's College World Series after you played that first game in the SEC, and it being, like you said, it feels like a must win, despite it's game 1 of the Women's College World Series. When you talk about having any chance of making a deep run, they have to win this first game. Otherwise, you feel like it could be an 0-2 and done.
Yeah, what's very odd about this too, Jake, is that the bracket has completely flipped in favor of kind of the I guess OU side of things. You obviously saw the number 1 team go down in Texas A&M, and they were supposed to kind of be on the second. So if anybody is unaware, you're watching this channel right now, you're like, okay, cool, I'll tune in at 11 o'clock. This is how the College World Series, you got 8 teams. You got a 4-team bracket, a 4-team bracket. Those 4 teams play in a double elimination style tournament to get to the final, and then those two teams playing a 3-game series to win it all. So Texas is in the bracket with number 2 Oklahoma, number 3 Florida. You got number 6 Texas, and then number 7 Tennessee. Those are the 4 highest ranking remaining teams in the tournament as a whole. And then on the other side, that's where all the upsets happen. That's where Texas A&M would have been. That's where Florida State would have been. But no, you've got number 9 UCLA is the highest seed coming out of that bracket. You got the 12 seed Texas Tech Red Raiders, the 16 seed Oregon, who probably should have played Texas A&M, but A&M choked, and then Ole Miss. So now you've got that kind of weaker bracket, and Ole Miss not ranked. They're the only unranked team that didn't host a region that made it to the College World Series. And so now you've got those strong 4 teams there kind of at the top of your bracket facing off, beating up on each other. And then you've got this kind of other bracket who they're going to be going up against each other to get to the finals. My take on this, whoever comes out of the Oklahoma, Texas, Tennessee, Florida bracket will win the whole thing.
Yeah, certainly feels that way. Though you could have one of those teams. I think the national championship will be between 2 teams from this bracket.
Yeah.
I think whoever goes into the loser bracket, one of those teams will make a run, whether OU drop one early, or maybe it's a Tennessee, a Florida, maybe it's a Texas that makes that run. But you look at this, and not only that, it hurts your chances come the loser bracket. Because if I look at it correctly, and the way it reads online is, Texas loses to Florida, and let's say Tennessee loses to Oklahoma. Texas would be playing Tennessee in a elimination game.
Yep.
Game 2.
Yep.
And so yeah,
it's Texas will play the loser of Tennessee and Oklahoma. So if Oklahoma loses, Texas is playing Oklahoma in a win or go
I
home.
don't think that will be. I don't think that'll be the case with
Right,
how OU
but
has played as of late. But
I agree. But I mean, and then obviously you can have that redemption against Tennessee that you suffered that series loss, that first series loss of the season to Tennessee at home. But man, not in a good situation. That's why Jake and I deem this pretty much a must win, because you do not want to be facing a double elimination against Oklahoma or Tennessee, because that's who you're facing if you lose this game. And so a little bit of breathing room. If you win this one, you can kind of get your bearings straight a little bit more. But man, just the
rest
tough,
you get too from being on the winner's
correct.
side.
Yeah, you don't have to turn around immediately and go ahead and play your second game. So, but yeah, no, this is a huge game for Texas coming up here in about an hour, if you're watching this at the time of our recording.
And if you can't beat Florida, at this point, and this is no shot at Florida, but I don't think you're going to beat the, an OU, which right now seems like the clear and heavy favorite to win it all. And at least if you beat Florida, maybe you get a chance to take on OU in that next round and go ahead and take a crack at it and see if they're, if you can find something that wasn't there in that regular season series earlier on. But Texas is going to have to play a whole lot better, because I'll just say it now, if they play like they did against Clemson, it will be a 2-game and out for Texas. They will not be able to win a game considering the side of the bracket they are on. I have a hard time seeing them advancing if their fielding, especially, is like it was against Clemson.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Jake. I'm curious to see what the Bats are going to do. I think I think this game is going to be a very, I don't know. I think we're going to see some extra base hits. I think we're going to see a couple of good fielding plays. I think we're going to see a couple of innings that are going to be pitching dominated, probably more so at the beginning of the game while everybody's still fresh. I think it'll take 2 or 3 innings for these runs to kind of start coming in for either Texas or Florida. But I do think when they start coming in, I think that these teams either one of them could kind of start getting rolling and easily put up 5-6 runs in this game. I think we're going to see a similar game to maybe what the series looked like, coincidentally, at the beginning of the season, Jake. I think this could look like a 7-5 type ball game towards the 7th inning.
Yeah, and that's kind of what scares me. Is
Yeah.
I don't know if I like Texas in those types of games. Though they have been starting to score some more runs, so maybe that is a good thing. But they just it feels like sometimes it's feast or famine with the offense. They either score a bunch of you don't see consistent scoring across a game. You may see a 5 spot in a game and then maybe 1 or 2 other runs total. Ironically, baseball feels like that at times too. And sometimes that's just the nature of the game, to be fair. But I think we're going to get a really good feel from that first game. I think we're going to know coming out of that Florida game, is this team have any shot to do anything? And even if they lose, you could feel somewhat good that maybe they're not going to be, just second game and out, depending on how they look. But if they don't look like a better team than they did this past weekend, I think my prediction is going to be pretty grim.
Well, Jake, what is your prediction? Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Yeah, I'm going back to pessimism mode. I just butchered that, but it's fine. It's late. Yeah, I'm going. I felt confident going into the Clemson series, and then I felt kind of silly for feeling confident of like, well, they smoked their regional, but that none of those teams were near as good. And it's just this continuing trend of not playing great softball against better teams. And now you're playing the best of the best teams. And yes, you're in that best of best, but it's again kind of what we talked about where you have a tier. Whereas Texas on that tier, they're almost in no man's land between that top tier and the next tier.
Yeah.
And this is now where you're playing those top tier teams.
I do think that the good thing about being in that in-between tier is that you are capable of beating these caliber
Texas is
teams.
capable of winning a
Right.
national. There's a reason they were the preseason number 1 team in the country. And while they may have not lived up to that ranking quite, because that is the number 1 team in the country. So if you are not number 1, you're not living up to that spot.
Sure.
They've still made it to the final 8 teams, and that is something to be proud of, especially when they just have not been in a complete rhythm. For you to not be playing your best softball and us still be talking about them playing
Yeah.
in the Women's College World Series is a testament to where the program is. But that being said, I don't think that gets you wins in Oklahoma City. I think playing good softball gets you wins. And at this point, I don't have trust in this team to do that consistently. I think we're probably talking next week about a disappointing, two game run at the Women's College World Series.
Man, I'm going to go ahead, Jake. I'm going to take I'm not going to take the complete opposite approach, but I'm going to take a different approach. I was going to have Texas maybe losing this game, depending on your result, or depending on your prediction. For me, I actually think that they're gonna take this first game against Florida. I'm gonna put Texas 5, Florida 4. It's gonna take 8 innings, 1 extra inning. Texas will get the job done, and go ahead and probably play OU in the next round. And then after that, I have no idea, Jake. I don't ask me to predict any further than past this Florida game, because I don't know if I want to go that far into the future quite yet.
Well, you can easily say it now. They'd be playing OU more than likely in that second round.
Yeah.
I don't imagine you're picking Texas.
Against OU, it'd be hard for me to pick OU, or it'd be hard for me to pick Texas against OU in that second round. And then they would have to end up playing the winner after losing to OU. They'd have to play the winner of Florida and Tennessee again. That's I don't want to get too far down the line to where we're just coming up with hypotheticals. So
Isn't that what a prediction is?
Well, yeah, it is, but that's just so far down the line. Jake, you just went 2 straight losses. For me, it's like, yeah, well, they win this one, and then it's a between Texas or
yeah,
Tennessee
you're a
and Florida.
coward. It's okay.
Okay,
We all
fine.
get it.
You know what? Fine, whatever. Screw you. I'm not gonna just let that slide on my podcast. So I'm gonna say Texas beats Florida.
Have fun doing Friday's episode. I'm going to bed.
loses to Oklahoma. I'm going to say Tennessee. I'm going to say Tennessee beats Florida. It'll be Texas, Tennessee. Tennessee beats Texas. It'll be Tennessee, Oklahoma again to go to the College World Series final. And I'm going to say OU wins that one.
Yeah, I mean, again, coming out that winner's bracket side is what's so important, because when you come out of that at the end, if you lose that first game, you're still alive. The other
Yeah.
team is playing for eliminate. You basically have a 1-0 lead in a best of 3 series.
Yep.
If OU has that advantage, they are not losing 2 in a row.
Yeah. Right.
It's just
Yeah.
not happening.
It would be Tennessee, coming up with a huge game to beat Oklahoma and putting them back one game in the first opening game to even give the rest of the bracket a chance for somebody else to get through
Yeah,
this. But
you need OU needs to lose one of these first 2 games, because at this point, if it's not going to be Texas winning it, I just don't want it to be OU again.
sure, I agree.
So,
I agree.
Anyone over OU, especially since A&M's not in it, so I don't have to worry about that, because they would act like
No,
that.
I can
was
literally
amazing.
say anyone but OU. Well, maybe not Texas Tech. I still wouldn't want them to do it,
Oh, yeah.
but I would still want
I don't
somebody
think
other than.
Tech's a legit threat.
I don't
at
think so
all.
either. But all right, Jake. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of All In Horns. Again, they're about to get going here in about 40 minutes or so. Texas will be taking on Florida, and it ought to be a good one. Later on Friday is when the baseball team starts up their regionals. Tomorrow's episode, we are going to be going through all the region that Texas is in on the baseball side of things as the number 2 overall seed, and still hosting in Austin, and have a great, we'll have a chance to host a super regional as well. So the road to the College World Series goes through Austin, at least for the time being. But with all that being said, we'll go ahead and log off on this episode. Excuse me. That's Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.